Hi everybody, Bearded Rogue here, and today I'm going to take a short break just to talk about expandable card games. Living card games, expandable card games, whatever you want to call them, trademark, are something that's kind of come out recently, and it's something that I'm a very large fan of. I never played Magic. I never got into Magic in any way, shape, or form. However, I was a huge fan of the Game of Thrones books long before there was an HBO series, and the Game of Thrones collectible card game, back when it was a collectible card game, ensnared me completely. I was 100% invested. I traveled the country to go to major tournaments. I acquired tons and tons of randomized booster packs. I bought cases every time a new set came out. I was even a Night's Watch and ran tournaments myself. I ran one of the regionals tournaments when I lived in Virginia. So it was something that I was really into, but just could not afford in any kind of a sustainable fashion. Like, I was, at the time in my early 20s, I had a lot of disposable income. I'd just gotten out of the Army and didn't have any other hobbies, really, at the time, other than comic books. So it was a really high point, getting to meet all of the people who were involved in the Game of Thrones collectible card game and getting to hang out with all of them. And then Fantasy Flight announced the living card game model, and at the time they had Cthulhu and Game of Thrones, and they announced that they were going to be moving over and they were going to try to be backwards compatible and all of that stuff, and I never, at that point I just decided, you know what, I was kind of looking for an excuse to get out of spending money over and over and over and over and over again in an endless treadmill, so let me just go ahead and kind of abandon it. So I didn't play Game of Thrones First Edition. I have to admit, Second Edition is looking very tempting, because it looks like a lot of the cards that I loved from the CCG are making their appearance for the first time ever in the LCG. It's so awesome to watch people who only know the LCG start to go, well, when did Lannister start having cancel? Well, I can tell you, it was back in Westeros block in the original CCG. Regardless, it's looking really tempting, and I don't know whether or not I'm going to buy in yet, but living card games or expandable card games are something that I'm very into. I'm a card gamer at heart. I love cards. Grew up playing cards, and the Game of Thrones CCG kind of prepped me for that type of game, and I loved it. So, I've already talked about Android Netrunner is one of my top 3 games of all time. If you can see up there above my finger, I have my Summoner Wars Alliances box way up there. That's all my Summoner Wars. It's effectively an expandable card game. I just recently got Ashes, and it's going to be an expandable card game. What is it about expandable card games that I enjoy? Well, with a CCG, I really loved building different decks and being able to express myself through my deck. I was a diehard Baratheon player in the CCG, even when Baratheon kind of sucked. I would take everything I could from my faction and try to concoct decks that were interesting to me, or that played with the mechanics that were the primary mechanics that my house played with, and that's kind of carried over into everything else. With Netrunner, I'm a noise player. I love Anarch in general, and noise specifically. Viruses and destroying everything is that the corporation puts out is very much my modus operandi, so being able to express myself that way through the game I'm playing is fantastic. I don't really have a favorite faction in Summoner Wars. I love them all. I don't know if I could pick one. They all play so differently that it's interesting having different ways to express myself inside of that game. Ashes, right now, I think Mayoni Viper is my go-to girl. She just brings this sense of inevitability. Like, if you can't put her away, the snakes will get you. Like, they just will. You won't be able to do anything about it. And I love that about her. Like, she's just this crushing, grinding inevitability that's coming after you and everything that that you stand for. So I love being able to express myself through decks. I also love playing with different mechanics. It's why I design games. And LCGs, CCGs, ECGs, whatever you want to call them, allow you to play with mechanics. Every single card is a mechanic. Every single card does something different that alters the rules of the game, and so you're inherently playing with the rules. The metagame around a game of this nature is its own set of rules. You know, some things people just don't bring because they aren't favored or because they're thought to be weak. So you're just playing with the rules all the time. And so that's something that I really love about these kinds of games. It's present in CCGs, but in an LCG you truly get the ability to play with everything because you can get everything without having to mortgage your house or, you know, donate a kidney. You can just get everything because that's what comes in the box. Just the ability to do all of this stuff really speaks to the game design side of me. Like, having everything and being able to connect it in different ways and see how it works is just phenomenal. I also love that it changes periodically. Like, while I'm not a big fan of the every month model for the living card games that Fantasy Flight does, I wish they came out a little less frequently. I love the injection of new mechanics in the game that kind of turn everything on its head. Especially Fantasy Flight is really good at introducing new cards that make old cards better. Cards that were kind of passed over the first time suddenly become cards that are worth playing. Cards that used to be totally dominant suddenly have a counter. And I love that aspect of it, that you have to kind of adapt and change. Summoner Wars, whenever they introduce a new faction or a new deck, is that way. I haven't done any deck building in Summoner Wars because there's just so much to do with the decks in the game. And they keep introducing new factions that allow you to change it up quite a bit. So I love that about them. You know, maybe this should have been a 3 things I love about Expandable Card Games video, but I think I've already listed about 6. Either way, I love the ability to just play with the mechanics and how the mechanics change over time, which is very much a living card game model or an expandable card game model. And so it's something that I'm probably going to be into forever. They're a type of game that really greatly appeals to me. There are a lot of them, so obviously I'm not the only one. I know a lot of people are looking for a magic killer or something that will get them out of the grind of the second-hand market in Magic the Gathering, but for me, that was never a problem. It's just a type of game that I really love. So LCGs, ECGs, as long as companies keep making them, I will probably keep buying them, and you know, we'll see which ones last for the long run. I know Netrunner is definitely there for me. Summoner Wars and Ashes, Plaid Hat is 2 for 2 on Expandable Card Games with me, and you know, maybe I'll pick up Game of Thrones 2.0 just to try to relive some of my old love from the CCG days. Who knows? But either way, I really love this model and these types of games, so I'm really glad that companies have seen value in producing them and that people are actually buying them so that they keep producing them. So yeah, that was just kind of a mini rant, because I'm sick and couldn't think of a topic, so I figured this one's as good as any. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll continue with the month of Vlogust as we go on. Later.